Okay, so welcome back. Today I'm actually going to do something a little bit different than the norm. Instead of talking about computers or, cameras, videography, that type of stuff, I'm actually just going to talk about some of the tech that I use on the daily. And that would be this fitness tracker. This is the Fitbit Iconic. It came out probably about 2 years ago. And even though this is a 2 year review, this is only 1 year with this watch. And I say that because this watch replaced the other watch that I initially bought back in October of 2017 when it was released, because that one actually died on me right at the year point. If you read the title already, you'll notice that I also mentioned REI being awesome. And the reason why I say that is because I went back to REI and explained to them what happened. And even though REI had changed their policy on replacement of electronics, back in the day, you could bring back anything to REI. But now it's like 90 days. Well, I went back and I explained to the guy, hey, look, man, I can't even send it back to Fitbit. He actually thought it was unfair, told me to come back the next day, and they did what was called a non-conforming return. So they replaced it with this watch. And now this watch, like I said, we've hit about a year, and it appears to be doing well. No issues so far. So shout out to REI for that great customer service. When people say they don't like to shop at REI, because it's too expensive, frankly, I think if they're doing stuff like that, it's totally worth it. So moving on to the watch, you can see I swiped already to kind of move into the interface. Frankly, as long as I've had this watch, this has always worked really well. You can see right now, sometimes I can even get away with swiping this with gloves on, which is amazing to me. For the most part, I use it every single day. I wear it to bed. I take it to the gym. I usually work out about 5 to 6 days a week. And generally, the main features that I'm using are things like the exercise feature, which basically just tracks, depending on what you're doing, your heart rate, calories burned, duration, etc. And then also, if you're outside running, if you're doing cycling, it'll turn the GPS on, which, by the way, is a feature on this watch. Everything appears to work well, although I noticed here recently I've had an issue with the GPS with those outside activities, not necessarily tracking, and I don't understand what's going on. I'm going to get a chance actually tomorrow when we're out riding to try to see if maybe there's something I can do to possibly, sort that issue. The alarms, the music, the coach, I really don't use that. And really for the music, I use an app for that, which I'll get to shortly. As far as this screen is concerned, I do use the weather every once in a while. It basically has to sync up with your Wi-Fi or your phone, and it'll update the information. It's, very kind of vague. You're not going to get a whole heck of a lot for the forecast, but as you can see, as you scroll through here, you do see enough information that you actually need for planning. And then, like I said, if you need more, you can just go on your smartphone, or you can actually go on the internet or the Weather Channel or some other place. And then let me see, on this screen, the only thing I really use is the app I was referring to, which is your Pandora. So your Pandora, I like it. I like the idea that I already use Pandora, and what this thing actually does, sorry, timed out, is it downloads your most commonly listened to radio stations plus the thumbprint radio that basically is a customized radio station that's created for you by Pandora. This feature I actually really love, because what this means is if I go out on a jog, I really don't have to bring a phone with me because GPS and music is already here. And really, in order for this to work, you can't use the basic Pandora. I believe it's Pandora Premium that you actually have to use to be able to download these playlists. But right now you can see it's got a total of 4 playlists. And like I said, one of those is a thumbprint radios. The other 3 are the ones that are your most listened to radio stations. And they work well. Like I said, it syncs up using Bluetooth to your headphones. No issues at all. And then let me see, what else have I used on here. I don't really necessarily use the settings unless there is an issue. So if I need to restart or just change how things are configured, once again, sync a new device, you just go into there. But it's pretty straightforward. Moving along, there's Starbucks, never used it. And then there's also Deezer, I believe. And I don't use that because I use Pandora, but it's the same sort of setup. That's the way I understand it. Stepping back here, there's also this Relax app. I'm just going to show it to you because it basically helps you by doing breathing exercises. But once again, I don't use it. I know that it's there, and I've actually considered at least trying it out. I just haven't. There's also another workout app that's actually on here that if you slide back over here, you will find it under My Coach. But once again, there's a couple of like sample workouts that are preloaded. And then you can also buy more on the App Store. But for instance, if you go in here, I'll show you what it looks like. There's just a graphic and it shows you kind of, what type of exercise you're doing, gives you a demonstration, and then also a time to do them. And then eventually it'll switch and go to another exercise. But it turns on the fitness tracker while you're doing these exercises to give you an accurate count of calories. I'm going to pause that and then exit out. So let's see. Yep, let's go ahead and exit. The other cool part about this is it all gets synced to the Wi-Fi app on your phone. There are also a bunch of wallpapers. You can see I actually had my family on mine, but I mean, there's a lot of different wallpapers to customize the screen. What I actually did after the last watch broke, I kind of stayed away from those just because I didn't want to just load some sort of third-party app that was created by someone and maybe that causes a problem. In addition to that, I also stayed away from any kind of aftermarket chargers, and I just used the one that actually comes with the watch. It has a magnet built into it, and basically it just attaches on the back here. And speaking of the back, there is an optical heart rate tracker back there, so you don't have to use a strap. And I think it's pretty accurate. What I normally do with this is I compare it to the device on any of the cardio machines that I use just to see how close they are, how far off. And for what it is, I actually think it works well. Plus, it's extremely convenient by not having to carry or wear a strap or even a separate device. But I would say I'm pretty happy with this device, with the fluke of the one that just died on me, and hopefully that doesn't happen to this one. This is exactly what I was expecting. The one thing that I will say, and the one issue that I have noticed, is when I'm out for a jog sometimes, the Bluetooth will drop out, and it doesn't necessarily disconnect. It's just the music kind of like pauses. Like it's almost like the processor that's inside of this watch is doing a little bit too much, so it's having a hard time keeping up. But what I'll tell you is the only time that really happens is if I'm trying to play music and use the GPS, and I'm also doing the heart rate tracker because I'm actually tracking my activity. So the watch is working probably about as hard as it can possibly work. So to be quite honest with you, to be expected. But overall, I think it was a pretty good purchase. Once again, going back to REI, highly recommend if you're going to pick up something, if they're going to continue to do stuff like this, especially for these pricey items, I would definitely support or recommend that you go to that type of store just because. The other thing I will say is on my Fitbit, that's a little bit different. Most people have changed out their straps. This is the strap that came with it, but I actually have a few aftermarket straps that I had from the other watch that I usually throw on here. Very, very easy to change the straps. There's a button there and it pops right off. Like that idea. I've had this thing, submerged. I had it in water. It's waterproof, no issues. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. So far, this is definitely the best smartwatch that I've actually purchased. And I've been buying smartwatches since actually the Motorola smartwatch. That was like one of my first ones. But I've had the Adidas, I forget who the actual manufacturer was of that watch. But I had their watch. I had TomTom's. You name it. And by far, this is the best one I've had to date. So any questions, feel free to leave them down below. And it looks like my light, the sun's going down, so I'm going to go ahead and sign out. Agent Fitz.